The First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with meteorologist Lee Southwick, Ross Muma.
Woohoo!
Busy as always, right, Lee?
Yeah,
He's doing a million things. We expect him to join us at some point. I suspect he's looking for what we call the clicker.
That's important. I think
Yes,
so. I see him like rummaging around over there.
That's our high-tech device that moves the graphics forward. But we're going to get there. I thought just for a moment we'd enjoy what we needed. When I say we all needed some rain, right, Lee?
We did.
But Georgia got it. You folks in Georgia definitely got it. Lee's well aware of that because it broke out last night. But I was looking at some of the rainfall totals, at least as far as radar Doppler, and especially right on the coast of extreme northern Camden and Glenn County, 3 to 5 inches.
Wow. I mean, I'm jealous.
Yes.
My yard didn't get anything.
Because the rest of it, I mean, let's face it, basically Kingsland, Fernandina Beach, southward, we didn't get. There he is.
I'm here.
Hey,
Doing it.
I will say, by the way, just as Fernandina Beach did get some rain.
Okay, so at least
tracked
you got
it today.
some. You got
Yes,
some.
but welcome,
And-
Ross. Thanks for working hard for us.
And I think Ross said that the airport got 300ths of an inch.
Yes.
Nice.
But
so
that
that
probably
streak is
did.
over now.
Yeah, but that probably did not help Enzo's ponds.
No, 300ths of an inch over the last 16 days is not a whole lot of rain and not a whole lot of moisture. So things still pretty dry out there by the airport.
And elsewhere,
Yeah.
especially after those temperatures we had. We're pretty sure now that 93 yesterday was the hottest so far this year officially, right?
Yes.
Right. Degree shy of the record yesterday. Just sweltering.
I'm guessing here, but probably it took about at least half an inch of evaporation took half an inch out of the soil just yesterday with that kind of stuff. But at least there's some rain around today. It's just we think it's that the Metro has pretty much had what it's going to have, right?
Yeah.
We may get a few showers come back our way. And part of the reason for that, folks, is up above about 10,000 feet. Winds are actually from the direction of where the thunderstorms are, which we're going to show you on the radar eventually. But the actual thunderstorms and the heavy rains will probably stay well out to the west of Highway 301 for the rest of the day, right, gang?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have any outdoor
There it is.
plans around the First Coast, you'll be in luck.
Good point.
All right. Look
Good
at all
point.
that lightning out there, though.
Yeah.
Those are some storms.
And I would suspect some of that's going to continue to build. And so for those of you who like to be your own analyzers, drop into the southeast. Now, Lee's also going to join us today. And in fact, it's the main reason she's joining us because Lee's going to update us on the new hurricane graphics. Lee, do you want to take over here?
Okay, sure. And then I can get out of y'all's way talking about the ranks. And
You're
people
not in
are
our way, Lee.
excited about that. All right. So we got a couple of updates coming up, but today I thought I'd just focus on one. We're going to do one a day likely, but we have a new update to the experimental cone. So what you see on your screen right now, this is the operational cone from the National Hurricane Center. So they give that forecast cone, and you see how on the operational one, it's only watches and warnings for coastal areas. So last year, they issued this experimental cone that showed watches and warnings for inland spots to help show the risk of wind damage inland away from the coast. And it was successful, all things considered, but they got some feedback and people were confused about an area where I think if you click once, Ross, it will circle it. It's these diagonal blue and pink lines. You can kind of see it in the Tampa Bay area. There it is.
Okay.
So people were confused when this would pop up. So what they've done this year is add that symbol to the legend. I don't know if, Andy, we can remove the bottom, the lower thirds. Yeah, if you click next, it will show you, it'll circle where that is now. So all they're doing is trying to just help communicate wind risk. So this is important where you have the diagonal pink and blue lines. It means there's a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning. And what's important about that is a tropical storm warning means winds of tropical storm strength, they're likely. And I think that's the next slide where we can break it down. So they're expected. But then a hurricane watch means it's possible to have hurricane force winds. So if you find yourself under one of these areas this upcoming season where you see the cone from the National Hurricane Center, you see those diagonal lines over your area, it means for you to prepare and expect tropical storm storm force winds, but also be prepared for the possibility of those winds being even stronger than that, 74 plus miles an hour hurricane strength winds. So it's just another way this year that they're trying to help their messaging, reminding everyone of the wind risks, not just at the coast, but inland, and all sorts of wind risks that you need to prepare for when a storm is heading your direction, guys.
Okay, I love it. I love right there that especially 1.5 to 2 days out, it shows that although forecasts are getting more accurate, there's still some iffiness to the forecast. Is there any way we can go back one more time and show the cone? Because there's something else I like about it. Okay, so first of all, notice to the left, as Lee talked about, you don't see the inland watches and warnings. And then you do, which that in itself I think is fantastic. But I think another great point it makes is notice how much land area are under watches or warnings that are outside of the cone. Yeah. And I think through the decades that has confused folks. And people tend to think of the cone as simply where the bad weather will be. And of course, all we're saying is that's where in the past 2/3 of that the hurricane or tropical cyclone 2/3 of the time has passed within 65 miles of that particular center. And that sometimes can be very different from, depending on the size of the tropical cyclone, from who's going to get bad weather from it. So to me, that's another great reason for them to do this.
And I also I'm on my phone. I'm trying to pull back up that report from the National Hurricane Center. Their changes, they mentioned that the cone is going to be smaller again. So like that error of where it's going to go. Pretty much what I'm saying is that it's getting more and more accurate every year, which is fantastic. Right. But smaller cone, like you said, makes people think that they're not going to see those impacts outside of the cone. And so that's why they do this. As you mentioned, it's just it's a nod towards their forecast becoming more accurate, more specific about where the center's going to go, but then more people thinking they're in the clear because they forget that the cone is just the center of the storm, not those outside impacts.
Well, I remember when they first put this out back in the 90s, and it was just the cone, and they would make the point over and over again. They would say, now don't focus on just the line. And we'd go to hurricane conferences, and several of us meteorologists would say, but that's what you're giving us, so why wouldn't folks focus on that? So I love I know there's a lot of colors there, and maybe some people might almost freeze because there's so much to look at. But
do you think there's a even better way to do it? And this is just me kind of talking out loud. Do you?
Yeah.
Ideas?
I think that's a great question. What I was about to say, and maybe almost visually they're doing it, is I've wondered, should we just have like points where their forecast position is, and then you just see all the watches and warnings. Now, as I'm looking at this, I'm realizing, oh, you know what? Once it makes it inland, you really don't see the cone. You just see the watches and warnings. So maybe they're already kind of doing that. And I also must say, especially once we get toward major hurricane status, as we all know, as much as there can be a large area of damage, 90% of it's going to be probably within that eye wall or within 20 miles. So we probably don't want people to completely lose focus of where the eye wall is, which in my opinion, that's what makes the hurricane different than any other low pressure system on Earth, is that so much is concentrated right there. I mean, next to the tornado. So I can see why they want to do that, but yeah. So maybe this is the best of all those worlds right now.
And now's the time of the year to familiar yourself, right?
Yep, good point. When the adrenaline's not flowing, right, and you're saying, okay, this is what this means. This is. I would say, especially for those of you out there who are decision makers for others, whether you think of yourself as the adult of the household, but I'm thinking more specifically if you're the decision maker for an office that is 100 people or 1,000 people or a school system or that normally there's a couple point people that at the very least I think you should really have a good idea of what all of this means, especially because very often these will go out at least 3 days and probably 5 to 7 days. Some of the watches and warnings will go at least 3 days out, and of course the cones will go out 5 days with what are we calling the 7-day, an outlook?
Yeah, it's like a 7-day now, yeah, because it's getting more accurate. So
It is interesting that because I think it was back in 2015 that they said they were going to make the 7-day SOP. And here it is 10 years later, and we're still sort of on the edge of, is it SOP and experimental? And at least they're being honest with themselves. But I think all of us, at least right now, as much as there's been improvement, there is still something about all those variables out there that once you get to like the 6 of the 8 day period, sort of our models start to diverge. And so I could certainly see how with the hurricane, you want to be careful.
Should we take a look outside?
Let's take a look outside. I mean, look how organized that system that came off of Georgia and then got.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I was quickly putting all of the radar slides together, so hopefully they tell a pretty solid story here. I'm hoping they're all in the right order. I had to run back out because I forgot Lee's first 3 graphics. So
You forgot? No, I'm just kidding. No,
So hopefully it's
know
all in there.
You were working really hard the past couple of hours. We know that.
That is for sure because
We'll roll with what we got.
Yeah. Now, I think this tells a story in that what you see, folks, over the Atlantic is really what organized, and Lee could speak to the story because she was here yesterday, but what organized from a cluster of thunderstorms that traversed east, southeast across Georgia. And then I think, Lee, it converged, interacted with the front as it was coming down the coast this morning, and that's where they got those really big totals, right?
Exactly, yep. And so just along that frontal boundary, now it's kind of like a backdoor front, and now it's moving to the west. You got the sea breeze, and look at all those thunderstorms exploding. Well, I will say I'm happy to see this. One, because we need the rain everywhere, so at least they get the rain. The lightning we could do without, but they have that beneficial rain. And that's in the area that models were showing it popping this afternoon as well.
Yeah,
pretty
they did a pretty good job.
Pretty good job with that.
Now, unfortunately, probably where the majority of us live, it skipped over us. And folks may be wondering, well, why did it skip over us? And I think it's a great example of it was a relatively, by the time it got to us, weak front. And it needed added ingredients. I think over Georgia before it converged with the front itself, it had a nice shot of vorticity with it coming out of the west and the northwest, and then it converged with the onshore flow right along the coast this morning. And then, but folks may be wondering, well, gosh, the front came through this morning, and the winds picked up out of the east and northeast across Nassau, Duval, St. John's, and Clay. Why didn't we get much? And I think primarily it's because the temperatures weren't warm enough yet, right?
Yeah.
We just didn't have that lift. But by the time the front made it to 301 westward, temperatures were, especially out there, well up into the middle and upper 80s. And so you combine that with the front, and bam.
As people wanted the rain so badly, but also they wanted it to be cooler after near record heat yesterday. And so that cloud cover that also has hovered over those coastal areas, people are enjoying temperatures staying in the lower 80s, but you missed out on a lot of these, the big rainmaker, the big storms out there.
Oh, I can hear my plants crying.
And we do have some pretty decent updrafts out there.
Wow.
The storm cores, pretty much from Jasper, northern Columbia County, Baker County, north of Sanderson, some stronger updrafts. So that was also shown with the lightning frequency in some of those updrafts and thunderstorms as well. So
Yeah, they're vigorous, I'd say.
yeah, nothing severe yet. So and we're not really expecting that to be much of a concern. But these will gradually drift westward here, right, kind of over the rest of this evening.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, very often we say with these types of storms, look where the heat is, and that's probably where the storms are going to build toward. And that's definitely out toward I-75 where it's upper 80s to 90 degrees.
Look at that, Lee. Gainesville, 90. Down in the
Guys,
swamp.
in the swamp, and it
Swampy in the
feels
swamp.
like it. Like, I know those kids are you're just drenched, whether you get drenched either from those downpours that pop up or just your own sweat. And I feel for those kids. I remember those days. And with that too, I remember moving from Fernandina Beach to Gainesville and thinking, one day I was like, why is it a little brisk in the air? What's happening? Guys, I forgot what a breeze felt like. There's no breeze in Alachua County either. So now it's coming in at 9, but it's nothing compared to those beaches, coastal areas. At least there's a little bit of a breeze going.
Yeah, and that's-
St. Augustine, Jacksonville.
That's sustained. I bet we're getting some gusto over 20.
Yeah, I know the airport has some gusts like 20 to 22 earlier this afternoon. So nice breeze out there, maybe to play some softball.
All right.
Yeah.
I tried to grind this out in time. Now, it's not exact because Fletcher and Nice High School are obviously at different locations, but the District 2 6A softball semifinals are tonight. You got First Coast at Fletcher, and then Mandarin at Nice. So I believe the First Coast and Fletcher game starts at 5 or 5:30, and then the Mandarin and the Nice Panthers play at 7, I believe.
This is all for the there you go, District Command. Look at Ross.
I have the information
Way
there
to
for
go.
you, Tim. I try.
Bottom line is, it looks like they're all going to be playing ball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Storms look to stay off to the west. Pretty nice night. Temperature's going to start to cool off here the rest of this evening, down into the mid-70s. Overnight, then, mid-60s, so still fairly mild, especially for where our averages should be for overnight lows, right around 58, 59 degrees. So still warmer than that, but overall pretty nice night, at least in and around kind of our core 4 counties here in the Jacksonville metro area. And then tomorrow, also kind of expecting a pretty nice day here again, especially for Jacksonville. Now, western areas perhaps might see a few isolated showers, I think at best. But for the most part, many of us should stay dry tomorrow as well, which some might view as good news, others might view that as bad news.
It's definitely the day to get outside, though, at least. If you're going to be dry, enjoy the sunshine while temperatures are still in the lower 80s, right? Instead of the 90s that we know keep trying to creep back into our forecast.
Yeah, I mean, that's for those who are new or you've forgotten that we're pretty much seasonal temperatures, right? So I think seasonal lows near 60 and the afternoon highs about 82 to 84 degrees. And we should be there really for the next several days. That computer model supports what Ross is talking about for tomorrow.
Yeah, so I was being very generous with the 10 to 30, I think, from 95 west. As you saw on there, best rain chances pretty much I-75 west from there out toward the Gulf Coast. So if you have outdoor plans, as you heard Lee say, wouldn't be too concerned. Elsewhere across the country, I do just want to add this in because there was a severe weather risk across Texas and Oklahoma today, and then also up across the upper Midwest, I believe, Minnesota, Iowa.
Can I hop in there because I'm concerned for my sister.
Yeah, go ahead.
Us brothers call her Cookie. But anyhow, our tornadoes are already breaking out in southwest Minnesota, and I believe they're under a moderate.
Yes, they were under a moderate risk.
Yeah, so things are just now happening. But for those of you with loved ones up in Minnesota, and especially the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, things are just now coming together. So I would suspect in the next couple of hours, it's going to be a pretty rough go up there, and wouldn't be surprised if you're flying. There's a couple direct flights from Jacksonville to Minneapolis that might have some delays just because of that weather that's heading their way.
And this is the system that will eventually impact us by the start of this upcoming weekend. So we will see at least some form of rain from it eventually, but at least tomorrow that kind of severe weather risk shifts further to the south and east. So from Columbus to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, even up toward Buffalo, they have an enhanced risk tomorrow, and that extends all the way from New York down into West Texas. So a pretty strong front all the way across the board for those folks tomorrow. As we saw for us tomorrow, nothing like that. Wednesday also looking pretty good. I think the high pressure generally sits just off to our east, so mostly sunny skies out there, pretty seasonable, mid-80s, nice little easterly onshore breeze. And then we do start to gradually warm up a little bit, right? Mid 80s by Thursday, potentially up close to near 90 by the end of the week. Maybe not there just yet, but we'll be inching toward that point, right?
Yeah.
So
Can I quickly just drop this in here since we are live streaming?
Yes.
And we just talked about that severe weather potential to the
Yeah.
north. Just letting you guys know that for those of you in Baker County, the National Weather Service is keeping an eye on your cell there too, because there is a thunderstorm producing gusts of 40 miles an hour, and pea-sized hail is also possible. So
and are they building it west?
this is near Taylor. It looks like west to southwest.
Okay. Well, since Lee is on camera, I mean, I do think now to make sure we do give time to the 60th annual Shrimp Fest.
Oh, where are my Shrimp Fest beads?
Focus is on Fernandina this weekend. Now, is it still though? Where is Thursday night actually the first night?
Yeah,
With
so
the
there's
parade?
a parade.
Okay.
Yep, there's a parade on Thursday. I will be there. You will see me
Awesome.
there.
Fantastic.
And then Friday, we have the fireworks. Friday night is always my favorite night. People are dressed up like pirates. You got the fireworks happening. And then Saturday and Sunday, more of that traditional. You're going to walk through the booths, check out the artwork, and get the lemonade and the fair food and the shrimp, of course. So, but Thursday and Friday, you guys will not see me here because I will be in Fernandina.
We expect reports.
Of course, yeah. I can send those.
So I just wanted to bring that up too, because although we are looking for maybe some rain, and so needed rain on Saturday, but still, like if you have outdoor plans on Saturday like the Shrimp Fest, you might still want to keep them because it doesn't look like a widespread rain event, at least not yet. Although I would say, if I'm focusing just on the Shrimp Fest, and now I'm talking probably out of school here because we're stretching it so far. But right now, I would think, see if y'all agree, if you want your closest thing to a dry day and maybe not as warm day, Sunday would be your day at Fernandina versus Saturday. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And there it is. There's Ross's front.
I don't know if I would dub it my front.
Your front.
Yeah.
You're gonna let it rain on Shrimp Fest?
No,
What?
I'll try to keep it dry all weekend, specifically for Fernandina
Just for and then please bring the rain after though, because I
Yeah.
also need the rain.
Yeah, after Shrimp Fest ends, then we'll bring some much needed
Perfect.
rainfall. But yeah, no, Tim, I agree. I think Saturday probably has the best chance to see at least some scattered showers. Sunday, maybe some coastal, showers kind of working their way in. And then a nice big cool down thanks to that northeast breeze.
Yeah.
Low 80s, perhaps even upper 70s. I didn't know you went 78 on Monday, Tim.
You know what?
Wow.
Again, I'm leaning heavily on what came in late this afternoon with the European, but it does. I mean, it looks like a pretty strong cutoff low to where our heights could come down here pretty significantly. Well, and that's the only reason I'm holding showers there, simply because it might be cool enough aloft to actually give us some instability showers come in from the Atlantic.
For our beachgoers, they're going to be a little bit upset seeing 70s on there.
Yes, could be a strong current as well going north to south. Although now I'm going way back to the weather. Although it was hot, it was great for the opening of the beaches. Saw some amazing sandcastles out there at the beach.
Well, there is one last look at your 7-day. We are going to, or at least Tim will have much more on the forecast coming up at 5 o'clock. But for now, enjoy the weather this evening. Take care.